Renewable energy is something we hear a lot about, both in farm country and outside as well. But one way producers are getting into the mix is by selling or leasing their land to renewable energy projects, such as a solar farm. But like anything else, in some of these cases, buyer, or maybe in this case, seller beware. Joining us on the PNW Ag Network hotline is Melissa Halpin, accredited rural appraiser, who recently gave a presentation during the American Agri-Women webinar talking about solar leasing. And Melissa, thank you so much for the time. So why should farmers or landowners in general be, I don't know if I want to say concerned, but be wary of solar leasing?
Sure. So since 2022, the Inflation Reduction Act was put in place, and climate concern has become a number one issue by the government, and they set aside a ton of funding to be able to subsidize costs of building these solar farms. And the ultimate goal is to have renewable energy be 90% of our energy production by the year 2050. So landowners are just becoming inundated with these mailings and callings from these solar companies and wind companies to try and sign up more and more land to build these projects on. So it's just becoming this huge, we're seeing now this huge influx of all of this interest in trying to sign up land and lease land by these companies. And it's a 30 to 50 year contract that landowners are signing up for. So it's a multi-generational decision. And so there's a lot of key things that landowners really need to take a look at before signing up in these contracts.
Melissa, forgive me, my memory is probably not as strong as it should be, but this seems like kind of a similar issue we saw about 20, 25 years ago when cell companies were going out to farmland asking to lease land to put up cell towers. So how similar or maybe dissimilar is it from that issue? Again, like I said, we saw about 20, 25 years ago.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think the main issue with the solar is just that, and that people are concerned about, is that it takes up so much more land than, say, a wind turbine would. The footprint of a wind turbine is about 1 acre, whereas these solar companies are wanting to do two different types of projects. One is a community solar project, which is typically 20 to 30 acres in size. We're seeing a lot of those. And then there's the utility scale project, and those are taking up hundreds, even thousands of acres of land.
So, Melissa, once the solar project, the alternative energy project, comes to an end, can that land go back into ag production, or is it now done producing?
So before even before construction of any of these solar projects, the solar companies have to put in place a decommissioning plan and have to set aside funds through either cash held in escrow or security bonds to be able to pay for the decommissioning at the end. And a lot of the local ordinances have already set up all these rules and stipulations for what the land has to be returned to at the end of the project. So when they're signing up, the solar companies are signing up to construct these, they are agreeing to removing everything so that it can go back into ag production and be farmed again.
So is this an issue for farmers just here in the Northwest, or is it a problem we're seeing nationwide?
It's everywhere. Yeah, it's nationwide. And in some states, it's a bit more prevalent. It kind of depends on the state level, because different states are more pro green energy, and so they have more, funding even at the state level set aside. So some states are easier to work in for these companies, but I'm hearing it across all 50 states. They're trying to build all these.
So, Melissa, I definitely don't want to put words in your mouth, but what is your message to farmers out there? Are you telling them that they should not sign on the dotted line when it comes to a solar farm or any sort of projects like that?
Sure. my role as an appraiser and real estate person, I'm not discouraging it. I'm just my concern or my message is to just make sure that you read through this contract thoroughly and you hire an attorney who is knowledgeable with these types of solar and wind contracts that can help you through the negotiation process and make sure that this contract is in the best interest of the landowner for all the different topics across the board that you would need to make sure that you have in that contract. And just to remember that the landowner, you hold the trump card because you own the land, and you don't be afraid to ask for things that you want in that contract with the solar company. And don't be afraid to negotiate for a higher rate or whatever can be more favorable to you.
Melissa, any other tips, any more advice before we let you go for the morning?
I think just the main thing that I want to stress is don't be afraid to hire an attorney to help you through the process, especially one that is very knowledgeable in this. The benefit of having an attorney help you with these contracts is going to far exceed the cost.
Melissa Halpin, accredited rural appraiser with Hertz Appraisal Services. Thanks so much for joining us right here on the PNW Ag Network.